The icy heart of Moscow throbbed inside the grand Luzhniki arena, its steel rafters echoing with the chants of thousands. Russian flags waved like a stormy sea of red and white, voices rose in unison, and the atmosphere was nothing short of electric. The championship mat, lit up by the blinding spotlights, glistened with sweat, carrying the scars of countless battles that had unfolded that night. The crowd was restless, chanting, drinking, roaring with the thrill of each throw and submission that defined Sambo's brutal glory. At the center of it all stood Ivan Petrov. He was Russia's pride, its undefeated Sambo champion, and to the people in that building, he was more than just a fighter, he was a symbol of strength and dominance. His broad shoulders carried the weight of a nation's pride, and his thick, scarred hands told the story of countless victories. Just minutes earlier, he had destroyed his opponent, a decorated Georgian fighter, slamming him onto the mat with a force so violent that the man had to be carried out with assistance. The referee raised Ivan's hand, and the roar of the crowd nearly shook the arena apart. Breathing heavily, his chest rising like a bull, Ivan grabbed the microphone shoved into his palm. His voice bellowed, raw and powerful, echoing through every corner of the dome. "This is Sambo, the greatest fighting art in the world. No flashy kicks, no movie tricks, pure strength, pure dominance." The audience responded like a storm. Some pounded their feet against the metal floors, the booming rhythm reverberating through the seats. Others waved their flags, chanting his name, exalting him as if he were a warrior king. Ivan basked in the adoration, his smirk growing wider, his confidence filling every inch of the arena. But then his eyes moved, searching the crowd, and they stopped at the VIP section. There sat Jason Statham. He wasn't laughing, he wasn't clapping. He sat in his tailored black coat, leaning slightly forward, his face still, his eyes sharp. There was something about him that cut through the noise, the kind of presence that didn't need words, didn't need movement. Just by sitting there, he commanded attention. Ivan's lip curled. He saw an opportunity to make the crowd laugh even louder. He raised his thick arm and pointed directly at Jason. His voice boomed again, dripping with disdain. "Look there, a Hollywood star, a man who plays tough in movies. Let me tell you something, one Sambo throw, and he would break like glass." The laughter exploded across the arena. Men clapped each other on the back, women smirked, whistles and jeers filled the air. Some fans even acted out fake movie punches, mocking Jason as nothing more than an actor in a scripted world. The arena's joy now came at his expense. But Jason didn't move. His eyes, however, lifted. That look was colder than the Moscow winter itself. It wasn't theatrical. It wasn't for show. It was the kind of look that silenced laughter in pubs, that shut down arrogance in alleys, the look of a man who had been through hard training, real fights, and who had the scars to prove it. Slowly, like a wave retreating, the laughter began to die. The mocking voices faltered. People turned to look at Jason, then back at Ivan, sensing the atmosphere shift. Ivan tightened his jaw. The silence made him uneasy. He forced a smirk and raised the mic again. "What? You don't like jokes, Mr. Hollywood?" he sneered. "Afraid? Or maybe the cameras aren't rolling, so you can't fight." Some nervous laughter rippled across the crowd, but most waited. Jason remained still, but now the tension in the building was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then Jason stood up. The scraping of his chair echoed louder than any chant. He adjusted his coat, unhurried, calm, his every movement measured. Each step he took toward the ring was like the ticking of a clock before an explosion. The crowd held its breath, thousands of eyes locked onto him. When he reached the apron, he climbed inside without a word, moving with the poise of a man who had nothing to prove, yet everything to finish. He stood face to face with Ivan, their eyes locked. Ivan tried to stare him down, but Jason's gaze didn't waver. His voice, low and steady, carried across the arena as if spoken directly into everyone's ear. "You've had your fun. Now let's see if you can throw me." The referee, wide-eyed, whispered quickly into his earpiece. The announcer's voice trembled with shock, but soon lit with excitement. "Ladies and gentlemen, an unscheduled exhibition, World Sambo champion Ivan Petrov versus Jason Statham." The bell rang. Ivan came like a bull, charging in with brute force, reaching for Jason's arms, ready to toss him into the mat like a rag doll. But Jason wasn't there. He slipped aside with cat-like reflexes, Ivan's grip catching nothing but air. The crowd gasped. Ivan tried again, spinning, grabbing at Jason's coat. Jason blocked hard, driving his elbow into Ivan's guard with a brutal crack. The sound of bone meeting bone cut through the arena. Ivan snarled, snapping into a sweeping leg hook. But Jason responded with a punishing low kick, precise and surgical, smashing into Ivan's thigh. The champion stumbled back, his face twisting in shock and anger. The audience gasped again. This wasn't a movie punch. It was real. Fueled by rage, Ivan lunged and caught Jason's arm at last. With a roar, he heaved, lifting Jason into the air for a devastating Sambo slam. For a heartbeat, Jason was weightless, the crowd rising in anticipation of the crash. But Jason twisted midair, landing with perfect balance, rolling through and springing back up like a panther. Before Ivan could react, Jason snapped his body into a spinning back kick that drilled into Ivan's ribs with a sound like thunder. Ivan staggered, clutching his side, his breath stolen. Jason didn't wait. He unleashed a storm-sharp jabs, swift hooks, brutal low kicks, his strikes so fast and precise that Ivan couldn't keep up. The Russian champion swung wildly, desperate to regain control. But Jason ducked, sidestepped, countered with fluid precision. The crowd was no longer laughing. They were standing, stunned, roaring with every blow Jason landed. Ivan, furious and desperate, launched one final charge, arms wide, trying to smother Jason with raw power. But Jason read it. With a sudden pivot, he ducked low, hooked Ivan's arm, and with flawless timing, hurled him over his shoulder. The sound of Ivan's body slamming onto the mat echoed like a cannon. Jason didn't hesitate. He locked his arm around Ivan's neck, his body tightening like steel cable. Ivan roared, thrashed, clawed at Jason's grip, but it was useless. Jason's chokehold was iron. Seconds later, Ivan's hand slapped the mat. The referee jumped in, pulling Jason off. Ivan lay gasping on the floor, his pride shattered. The once booming crowd was stunned silent. Jason stood tall, his chest rising calmly, his face expressionless. He didn't pump his fists. He didn't taunt. He simply gave Ivan a small, respectful nod, acknowledging him as a fighter, then turned and walked out of the ring. And then the silence broke. The crowd erupted, not in laughter this time, but in deafening applause. Flags waved, people stomped, and chants rolled like thunder. Statham! 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 That night, Moscow had celebrated Ivan Petrov as their Sambo champion. But history would remember something greater. It would remember the moment Jason Statham stepped into the ring, faced a national hero on his home soil, and proved that he wasn't just a Hollywood star. He was the real deal.